Now, this might not be as obvious as I'd like it to be, given I'm a game developer and all, but walking is not particularly difficult.
Creatures of that miserable sort who loudly proclaim that torture is too good for their enemies and then give tea and cigarettes to the first wounded German pilot who turns up at the back door.
Unfortunately, though, like most things that you do in real life that aren't very difficult, trying to recreate that in a video game is actually pretty challenging. Did it take me 6 months? Sort of. Sorry, I know you've all been eagerly awaiting my return, but I was busy moving halfway across the country, so content kind of got put on hold again. I'm back again. We've done this intro before. Let's just get into the content.
Present, the enemy says mine of everything on the pedantic, legalistic ground that he made it.
I'm making a strategy game. That's what you're here for. I hope you know that much. If you don't know that much, go watch my previous video and then come back to watch this one and start it from the beginning so that I get all of the watch time so that YouTube doesn't think that my video is having people abandon ship. Anyway, so last time I finished Pathfinding, but as you can hopefully guess by now, I didn't keep the Pathfinding like that. It had to be rebuilt, I'd say a solid 2 times. But before I even did that, I thought the most important thing was to make sure the world had color. Because what would the world be without a little bit of color? I mean, it's not functioning. So some might argue that's more important. I told you about how many files there's going to be in this, right? There's going to be a lot, and I'm going to keep telling you about them. But currently, with the file that loads the environment, the only part of the environment that can be loaded is terrain cubes. I haven't built anything else into it, which does simplify things for changing it. And just go in, put one number after each terrain cube to indicate a color. I go over here to create a helper library. By the way, if you don't make helper libraries when you're programming, it's very, very useful. Just make a big script, make it accessible everywhere, and put just a bunch of classes in there that you don't want to hard code into everything, so you can just reference it and grab it. What I did here is I just made an array with a bunch of color values in them, so if I put in a number, it gives me a color value. I modify my map load script so that it reads that number, assigns that number to that cube, and we're good to go. It's not pretty to look at, because I'm working with developer colors here. I'm actually doing a really good job of not making artwork for it just yet, because that's how I get sidetracked and then the thing never gets made, and then I take 6 months in between videos. So that's all bright and colorful. I did a lot of other stuff under the hood too, but that's not really important for this video. At least not yet. Because what I went on to next is the pathfinding, which you saw I had mostly finished at the end of last video. I had the paths being outlined, and I said the next thing that I can't wait to start doing is to have them start moving around in this physical space, and that's true, but the problem is I'm not stupid, but I am overconfident, I suppose. You see, I know how to program a pathfinding algorithm. I did it in school. I've done it like a dozen times since then. But every time I go to make one, I try to get fancy with it. Like, for example, what I had in the last video, I had what's called a linked list. Basically, it's a list that's like that they're linked together. So you can go like forwards and sometimes backwards if it's a doubly linked list. It's good for like linking lists. It's 5 a.m. I thought I'd use one of those in my A-star pathfinding algorithm. I'm using an A-star pathfinding algorithm, by the way. If you don't know what that is, Google it. But the A-star pathfinding algorithm doesn't use a linked list. It uses an open table or a hash set, or at least a normal list, but even the best thing to use is a hash set, which that I will tell you about, because it's like a list, except instead of it all being ordered, it's just kind of a bucket. Sorry, let me take a step back. In programming, for those of you that aren't programmers, there's a lot of different ways you can organize data. There's arrays, which have a specific size to them when you make them, and you can structure each individual item in them at a specific index in that array. There are lists, which are basically arrays, but they have a wrapper built around them so that you can more easily change the size and add stuff in. It makes your job easier, but it's also more expensive from a computing standpoint. And there's these things I learned about recently called hash sets. I think it's hash sets. It might be hash sets, like the hash like the brown, or hash like the guy from COD Ghosts. I think that's pretty much all hash comes into. And computing, it would seem.
As always, the first step is to keep knowledge out of his mind.
Arrays and lists both store items at specific spots in their list. And there's something slotted at slot 1, at slot 2, at slot 3. These are called indexes. A hash set is unindexed. It throws everything into the bucket, and pretty much all you can check is if something is in that bucket. There's no file, there's no format to it. You can just check if something is contained in that, which is perfect because for pathfinding, all you need to know is if we've looked at this thing before. Kind of. I'm oversimplifying. But now we have pathfinding. I think that's the problem with development. You can make something, but how do you know it's functioning? Unity lets you have this little thing where you can do debug.log. That basically lets you type out strings to the command line. Well, it's not a command line. You can't put commands into it, but it puts you can send messages to yourself from inside your code, and that way you can put at specific points in your code to make sure it's flowing properly. That's kind of difficult to parse into a proper pathfinding algorithm. So unfortunately, I have to do what developers, competent developers at least, do all the time. Make tools for themselves that aren't actually part of the gameplay. You'll never see these tools outside of this video, but I need them. So that's why I'd like to introduce you to.
Remember always that he really likes the little vermin and sets an absurd value on the distinctness of every one of them.
If you hold down the tilde key, I think, maybe Q, maybe escape. I think I made it so it's the tilde key. I could check, but I want to keep making this video. If you hold that down, this text will appear in the top left corner basically saying, hey, you've turned on debugging. But then you can press a number. Right now there's only 1. And that'll bring up a specific set of developer tools. 1 gives you the pathfinding, where I can put in point A by clicking and point B by clicking, and I can tell it to build a path. And it gives me this line that shows me the path that is there. And boy, howdy, did I need this tool, because it did not work the first time I made it, or the first 6 times I made it. But then, it did, because I'm a good programmer. That it sucks. So I can assure you, I'm not a vibe coder. I have nothing but contempt for those people, and I use that term loosely. They make me sick. Now that we have pathfinding done, I want to have units moving around, because I don't need to tell. It's just, guys, it's a game. It's a strategy game. You move units around, okay? I can't keep explaining this to you guys.
This is a crying example of something I have complained about already. Your readiness to forget the main point.
But for that, we need units. And the whole point of this game is that it is modular, is that it is fun, it's competent. Most people buy the game because it is fun game. But the whole thing that's going to make this extraordinary, I called it the strategy game to end all strategy games. That is a high bar. The whole reason it's going to be that is because the tools are going to be built in to seamlessly make your own content from top to bottom. And man, I just need to make it modular. So instead of hard coding in units, I'd like to present you with the format file. The format file is going to have all the stuff about the map that is not the map geometry itself. That'll be saved in a map file. As you can see here, the format file for my particular test area contains everything we need to have for the units and the alliances and the weapons. But you can pretty clearly see right here, and from this line that I have at the top, that this line right here is a separated string that has everything we need to instantiate a unit. Their name, their position, their alliance, stuff like that. And I built this really clean file load script that takes them, that sorts them, and puts them on the map. And so far, it's actually going surprisingly well. I don't want to jinx myself, but it's well made. And to prove that, let me show you something. All units are going to be assigned to a commander. They're the person that controls the units. Some of them will be controlled by AI, some of them will be controlled by players. All you need to do to switch between the commander you're controlling is go over here, change this number, and all of a sudden you're controlling somebody else. But now we've got units, and we have pathfinding, but the units aren't pathfinding because I have to do all of the work. I'm an indie developer. I love it. I'm so tired at the time of making this video that it makes me sound more depressed than I am. For reference, it is now 5:35 in the morning.
He supposes that the enemy, like himself, sees some things as present, remembers others as past, and anticipates others as future.
But I had a crazy idea. Everything I see that talks about multiplayer is really, really difficult. That's what everybody says. But this is a strategy game. I won't have to worry about latency or lag or ping or anything like that. Nothing's happening that quickly. I want to make a system that can take a string, interpret that, and use that to do any action conceivable in the game on any unit anywhere. That means if you're playing multiplayer against a real person, they do the stuff that creates the string. They want to take a unit, move it to a position, and then fire a rocket. The string takes all those inputs and then sends it to itself on its own game and does it, and then sends it to the other computer, so the other computer does that same thing. And what I referenced earlier with the whole commander int stuff, it's so seamless that the computer can act just based off of one number like it's controlling a completely different player. So it would be very, very easy to just take in an input from somebody else that has that number difference and act like it. Multiplayer's messy. It's all puppets and smoke and mirrors, but it's actually really clean. Now the unit's moving. And, like I showed last time, if we go over here and we just blow this up with the minus key, the game will not let you blow up terrain with the minus key, unfortunately, but the game also won't look like this. If we go over here and blow this up, we can move right through because it's dynamic pathfinding, and I have units moving around. Did a lot of other stuff that there's no reason for me to tell you about. It's files and like cleaning up under the hood and some graphics. You can look at the graphics. It looks pretty nice. But that's boring. You know what's exciting? Shooting things. That's what we're doing next time, though. Come back then. Subscribe.
Meanwhile, I have you to settle with. Most truly do I sign myself, your increasingly and ravenously affectionate uncle, Screwtape.